The 2022 California gubernatorial election will take place on November 8th, 2022, to elect the governor of California, with the statewide top two primary election taking place on June 7, 2022. Incumbent Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom is running for re-election to a second term after surviving a recall election in 2021 during his first term. Today, we're honored to have Anthony Trimino, the grandson of an immigrant who fled communist Cuba. He is 50% Mexican and 50% Cuban, and definitely considers himself 100% American. He is standing as the Republican gubernatorial candidate for California. He is seen by supporters as the X factor in California's 2022 gubernatorial race, appealing to a broad range of Californians. When he was asked why he decided to run, his reply was, quote, "It's personal." Quote, "I believe we're in a battle for our souls, our soil, and our liberties. We may be divided, but we don't have to remain that way. We can unite against those in office who continue to drive a wedge between communities, classes, and cultures through the misuse of power, influence, and fear. I'm coming to wage war against those who have unlawfully taken our freedoms, abused their power, and caused irreversible harm to California families and businesses," end of quote. Anthony Trimino was born in Torrance, California. Trimino's career experience includes working as the CEO of traffic and network engineer with WorldCom and the sales director of priority business accounts for PacBell. He has been affiliated with We Are Still Heroes and Union Rescue Mission. He is the CEO and founder of one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America and contributing member of the Forbes Agency Council. Anthony has a unique approach to bringing a diverse group of people, ideas, and perspectives together to build solutions that address and overcome complex challenges facing businesses, healthcare, and our local communities. Welcome to the Yentas in the City show, Mr. Trimino. It's really an honor to have you here with the Yentas today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here with our listeners.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And can we make a deal? Can you do that for me every single time I'm about to speak? I mean, that's got to be one of the most incredible intros I've had in as long as I can remember. And thorough. Thank you so much.
Well, every word of it is true.
Yeah,
we did a lot of research. It's so funny because, you know, we do a lot of interviews with politicians. And you, for some reason, when we did research, we really wanted, we wanted to interview you. You got our attention.
Good. Let's hope I could keep it.
Yes. We have a lot of questions for you.
Okay,
and for the Spanish listeners, bienvenido a nuestro programa de Yentas in the City.
I love it. So good.
Well, Anthony, it's an honor to have you here. You're often quoted as saying California doesn't need a governor, it needs a CEO. You started a successful company which has a global footprint. Can you please tell us your story of how a successful businessman like yourself from the private sector decides to run and start a career as a politician and run for the governor of California?
Sure. Well, let's make something clear. I don't want to start a career as a politician because I don't believe that politicians are going to fix the problems that are happening in our state that were created by other politicians. Right. So what I think is that we need more people from the private sector, from business, from various industries to actually take elected office because we have a fresh perspective, a different view on things. And so a little over 20 years ago, my wife and I were in a small little apartment eating hamburger helper without the meat because we could not afford the ground beef. So we had very humble beginnings when I started my company. And so through a lot of hard work, sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears, a supportive wife, the grace of God, I built that company up over the next 20 years to what Inc. magazine called one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America. Now, having had that level of success, why in the world would I want to do what I'm doing now? Well, ultimately, because as a business owner, I realized that California is not business friendly. We're chasing out manufacturing. We're chasing out big companies, small companies. We're crushing our agriculture industry. We're crushing, a lot of minority owned businesses as well. And so as a business owner, I looked at California as a burning building that I needed to get away from. And so we were on our way to Florida, as so many other people were or are, I'm sure both of you guys know at least one person that has contemplated
I
leaving
know
or
10.
already.
Actually,
Yeah.
about 20% of our friends left either to Texas
Yeah.
or to Miami.
Yes, I know. And I was gonna be one of those in Miami. And I realized, I have 5 beautiful children, 4 biological, 1 adopted. And, I looked at my boys and I said, what would it show my boys? I'm trying to raise boys into men. What would it show my boys if we just up and left, if we just packed up and left? And, I've always told them, if you cannot find the solution, you become the solution. So I would be a hypocrite if we would have just packed up and left. So we decided to dig our heels in and stay and fight. And I decided to run for governor because I ultimately, as a CEO and founder of my company, I believe that change starts at the top, and that we need change from the top to trickle down. And so, people often ask me, why didn't you run for mayor? Why didn't you run for city council? Because no, I'm a CEO. I think about change at an executive level, and I believe we need to fire the executive in California. And I believe that it's going to take someone from the private sector to do it.
Wow.
Very great. Mr. Trimino, what is your greatest concern that you see in California, and what are your plans to change it if elected as governor? And also, could you please address the homeless situation in your response?
Sure. Obviously, there are so many issues plaguing California right now. Cost of living and homelessness, crime, I think they're all significantly important. But the one thing that's near and dear to me, and the thing that I think about probably every single day, is the attack on our children. The things that are happening in our public school systems, the things that are being taught. So you think about critical race theory, you think about gender studies, you think about sexuality, you think about the attack on our children, lowering the age of consent. And so for me, something that is near and dear to me is really creating a wall of protection between government and our families, government and our children. And so that's priority number 1 for me. But immediately following that, as a Californian, as a business owner, obviously the cost of living is ridiculous. The amount of taxes that we pay more taxes than anyone in the country, twice that of New York. But let me ask you guys something, where's our money going? Our governor was touting and boasting about $100 billion surplus. Well, if you think about it, we're the highest taxed people in the country, and our governor is sitting on $100 billion surplus. What does that tell you? It means we've been overtaxed, that we've been abused. He's abused his power. There's a mismanagement of funds. And so I believe that needs to be addressed. But going to the crime and the homelessness conversation, I believe they're intertwined, because I believe that the rise in homelessness is also creating a rise in crime as well, because we're attracting people to our streets and we're incentivizing them to be in California, to be homeless. And then we're changing the rules of our laws. So what would, a felony was $450 or more, that was changed to $950. So if you think about it, we're allowing criminals to commit crimes up to almost $1,000 a day without any punishment, without any prosecution. And so it's making our streets unsafe. So here's what we'll do to fix the homeless problem. We're going to work with churches and nonprofits up and down the state, because they already have feet on the ground. They already have boots on the ground. And Newsom right now has about $200 million worth of payroll for people he's hired to fix the homeless problem. I say on day 1, we fire all those people, reallocate those funds, give them to the nonprofits and the churches that are already doing that good work, give them infrastructure and funding, and then we allow our police officers to be police again. We allow them to go into our streets and make arrests for people that are here, that are on our streets illegally committing crimes. And then lastly, we eliminate no cash bail, early release, so that when we finally do make arrests and we finally do prosecute, these people are not back out in the streets within hours.
Wow. Now I wanted to ask you, before I go to my next question, since you mentioned criminal, I was not going to address this with you, but since you mentioned criminal,
sure.
No, we cannot ignore what happened in Texas right now. And I was not going to bring this subject on this interview, but I have to, because we started mentioning 19 kids just died, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. Obviously, us as parents, we can really, it hits all of us like it was our own kid that were murdered. What's your take on gun control? Because, security was there, the police was there, yet an 18-year-old got a hold of a gun and went in, and the security couldn't stop him. the police actually was at the scene. What's your take on gun control in general?
Yeah, in general, what I believe is, okay, first of all, we're talking about Texas. Our heart goes out to all of those families that were impacted. It didn't just impact the families who lost loved ones, but I think all of us as parents kind of felt an uneasy feeling.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, today. It's not going to go away for a while. And so I think the world has been affected by it. So our hearts and prayers go out to those people in Texas for sure.
Definitely.
But what I believe the ultimate issue is, I believe we have a mental health issue above all. And I believe that what's happening is that we need to do a better job securing our schools. So think about this. We have security at our banks. We secure our politicians. We secure our celebrities. We secure our federal buildings, our state buildings, but yet we don't secure our schools the same way. Make sense of that for me. Our most vulnerable citizens, and if you think about it, children are the world's most valuable asset, right? They're our future. And so we protect all these other people, but we don't protect our children. I believe we have failed them. I believe our government has failed them. And as governor, I would ensure that our schools are secure and are safe, and that we actually address the core problem, which is mental health.
But do you think we should have gun control? Because an 18-year-old had a gun.
Think about this though for a second. So they say that we should make guns even more difficult to obtain and make them illegal to own, right? Okay, so the government believes that if you make laws preventing gun ownership, that you'll solve the problem. But let me ask you guys, isn't murder illegal? But it didn't stop him from committing murder. So laws by themselves do not stop people from committing crimes.
You're saying we have to address the core, the core issue.
Yeah, the core issue is mental health.
Mental
Because
health.
if you have people out there that are sick and that want to inflict harm on people, you've seen it all over the world. They'll use a car, they'll use an axe, they'll use a knife, they'll use a gun, they'll use their hands, they'll use a bomb, they'll use anything. So really, is it really the weapon of choice, or is it really the core fundamental problem is that we have a broken world, a fallen world, and we need to address the mental health issues.
Right.
I wanted to ask you one, so that was my that I just wanted to bring that. I was not going to address that, but we...
Surprise!
Surprise!
It's all good, don't worry.
The next question is actually a little hard one too. This country is in turmoil over the current threat to women's right to an abortion, with the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion to overturn Roe versus Wade. How are your thoughts on medical freedom translate to abortion rights?
Sure. So the medical freedom conversation is the government telling you what to put into your body. And I believe that we have the right to decide for ourselves and for our children through conversations with our own physicians, the medical treatments that we want to have. And the government should not tell you what you have to do with your body. The abortion conversation is different, right? The abortion conversation, it really, the fundamental argument is really, where does life begin? And whether these are reproductive rights, or whether they're rights to protect an unborn child. And I'm obviously pro-life 100%, and I believe in the sanctity of life, and I believe that life begins at conception. Obviously this is a federal issue, and our governor is going to want to make this his #1 talking point. He has already started, our governor has purchased millions of dollars worth of TV already, and his ads are basically single subject focused. He wants to make this all about abortion this year. And here's why he wants to make this election a single subject race. Because if you're thinking about abortion, you're not talking about homelessness, crime, fire, water, energy, our schools. You're not talking about any of that if you're thinking about abortion. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to divide us. And I think that there is more that unites us than divides us.
Okay. Mr. Trimino, I know right now we're seeing unprecedented crime levels throughout California. What would you do? And I know you touched upon it briefly a little bit ago, but what would you do about the smash and grab that is happening in California, when basically you can walk into a store and take about $1,000 worth of merchandise without any consequences? And could you also share your thoughts on defunding the police?
Yeah, I think it's a horrible idea. It's a horrible phrase. We need to fund the police. We need more police on our streets. We need them better equipped. We need police to look more like the communities they serve. We need to enhance our police department, not to degrade it and not to defund it. And what we'll do with crime is really start to prosecute crime. So I said it before, right? We have no cash bail. We have early release. So what's happening is criminals are committing crimes and they're not fearful of the consequence anymore. And so, I mean, just think about raising children. If you're raising children and they're doing wrong and there are no consequences, they'll continue to do wrong. They'll continue to push the envelope. And we're living in a society where criminals now have gotten very comfortable pushing the boundaries. They have no fear. They operate with no fear. In fact, a lot of times they're even recording and posting on social media the crimes that they're committing. So we're going to fund our police. We're going to let police be police again. We're going to start prosecuting crimes. And my goal is to make California the most unfriendly criminal state in the entire nation, where we actually make examples out of criminals so that criminals who want to commit crimes realize that they need to travel outside of the state because the punishments are going to be so severe here that there is no refuge for criminals in California.
Good.
We need that.
All right. Yes, we need that. Of course.
Mr. Trimino, Republicans often say California is doomed. It's red and Newsom is part of a political dynasty. What drives you to continue to fight for California? I would venture to say that it's your faith that drives you. And do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yeah. So the funny thing about religion is the way that you practice it, right? And so yes, I'm a faith-driven, God-fearing individual. Faith is at the forefront of everything that I do. My faith is my bedrock, my foundation. So yes, I cannot separate who I am from my faith. It kind of answers your first question. What drives me? My faith, my obedience, my desire to serve, right? So I often say I'm not running to win, I'm running to serve. Where does that idea come from? It comes from my faith. The idea that when you see injustice, when you see wrong, we are called to step up and fix it and fight against it and battle against it. And so God has blessed me over my life. He's given me an incredible career, supportive family, and the tools and the resources to fight this fight. So what keeps me going is a desire to be obedient to my God, a desire to fight against the injustice that I see, but it's really out of a love also for California and the place that was so welcoming to me, my family, my grandfather who fled communist Cuba. And, you know, I could easily just leave and put California in my rearview mirror and never look back. But again, what kind of person would that make me? And I believe that there are so many people in California who cannot fight for themselves and they need a champion to step up and say, send me. I did that and I'm going to finish what I started.
Amazing. Mr. Trimino, if elected, you will be the first Latino governor elected in California history. In 1875, there was a lieutenant governor elected, but you would be the first Latino governor elected. What exactly are you doing to obtain the Latino vote, since approximately 40% of the voters in California are Hispanic? And how exactly do you believe that you can flip the vote?
Yeah, so I think part of the way that we're going to get the Hispanics to come out and vote, Latinos to vote, we're giving them a candidate that reflects the diversity that exists within California, right? So like you said, 50% Mexican, 50% Cuban. I was born here. I'm 100% American. That is the story of so many minorities and Hispanics in California. So just my race alone gives them hope, gives them an idea of what you can strive to achieve. So that is generating a lot of excitement. But also because, you know, we're going out and we're doing the work of educating Latinos who traditionally voted one way their entire life, but they don't realize that ultimately they've been voting against their values and against their traditions. So when you educate this audience on what it means to be conservative, what it means to vote based on values, you're surprised at how many of them realize that they've been voting wrong their whole lives. So we're out there, we're connecting. I'm representing, you know, a large portion of the population, but also we're getting endorsements from people like Lexit, which is the biggest movement of Latinos exiting the Democrat Party. We have many people from the church that are supporting us that are known for driving Hispanic votes and getting the Hispanic demographic out to vote. So, you know, we're doing the hard work that a lot of other candidates
Oh, you're cutting off.
can't do, don't think is important. So can you hear me?
Right now we can.
Yeah, now
Okay.
we can.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, we're doing the hard work, and we're going to get the Latinos to come out and vote. You know, the promising thing is that in the recall, there was a 10% increase in Latino votes. They're estimating another 15 to 20% increase in the general. So I mean, you get 25% more of that demographic to come out and vote, and they start to move the needle.
Well, you know what I noticed also with the elderly people that were lazy before to come out and vote. They are so sick of their homelessness and the way the state is run. My dad drove me crazy. I want to vote, or you have to come over and you have to help me. I can't see well. No, you really see, especially in the Jewish community, I noticed that a lot of elderly people are calling their kids because they're sick of it. Like they walk out and sit in the front yard and they see these homeless people like walking and screaming in the streets. They're nervous. They want change. They all, as well as the younger generation, you know?
Mr. Trimino, before Eti closes us out, I just wanted to ask you one quick thing. What are you doing to ensure voter integrity? I know what Eti and I can do. We can vote in person, and but what are you doing or your team to ensure voter integrity?
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you guys know that. We have to promote that as much as possible. We need everybody to vote in person, even though it's convenient to fill out your ballot and send it in. We want everyone to vote in person, and you can do that as early as May 28th, which is when in-person voting opens, all the way up to June 7th. What we're doing is we're working with churches that have committed to putting at least one person every voting location. So there are 23,200 approximately voting locations in California. There are 2 churches at least that have committed to putting at least one person in every location. Just the mere presence of somebody watching is enough to help ensure that our votes count. Then it's going to take the public to get out and volunteer or work at polling locations. If you think about Virginia used the same voting machines we have here. They had the same type of voting fraud issues and concerns that we have here. But how did they flip the state, and how did Youngkin win? They showed up in incredibly large numbers. They worked the voting locations and they voted in person. And if we followed that blueprint, I'm confident that we can actually get the votes we need, get in office. And then when we finally have a governor like me, we'll do a statewide audit, third party, transparent to the public, and get rid of the problems and the concerns that have taken the trust away from our voters. Before
I wrap up, is there anything that we did not address? Because we have a lot of followers, especially in the Jewish community. Is there anything that you want to add before we wrap up, that you want your voters to know that we did not address here?
I think we covered it all, but in summary, again, I'm the grandson of a man who fled communist Cuba. I know what socialism looks like. I know what communism looks like. It's important that our leadership knows that those ideologies have already arrived here, and we have to stand against them and fight against them. I think it's important that we elect somebody who's not a career politician. We don't need any more politicians in office. We need a CEO, not a governor. We also need somebody who understands what's happening at a personal level. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner. So on so many levels, this fight is very personal to me. And then I just want to encourage everybody that by June 7th, you need to vote. Remember, it's a jungle primary. So we're not electing our governor on June 7th. We're just sending 2 people into the general election, and the actual election will be in November. But we have to have in numbers on June 7th. I hope and I pray that you put me forth so that I can do battle with Gavin Newsom up until November, and we can take back our state.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Trimino. We know you are so busy. Thank you for joining us today. We were honored to have you here and learn more about you personally and about all the issues that you are going to address once, if you win and become a governor. Your dedication to our community and the state of California are to be admired. We wish you luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
Both Karen and I are looking forward to much needed change to the state. We need to bring the state back to be the golden state of opportunities. We know it is. Thank you again for taking time.
Amen. Thank you.
And speaking to us today. We can't wait to take you out to dinner.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Yes, I'm going to hold you to that. Remember that.
Yes.
All right.
We would like to thank all of our followers for listening to this episode. Please remember you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Yentas in the City. You can also write us at dearyentas@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you and answer your letters on our weekly advice column. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Soft Smart System and Conquest Realty Investment. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We have a lot more coming. This is Etty Elkis and Karen Cohen, and we are Yentas in the City. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.